Welcome to 30 Minutes of Wisdom, Rising in Consciousness and Mindfulness. I'm Veronica Carrera, the creator and producer of the show. 30 Minutes of Wisdom is about rising in consciousness and connecting to our authentic self. To help us persevere through these uncertain times, we have created a space for conversations that are rooted in wisdom and higher consciousness. So today, we have a special topic, the power of love. We had a different segment than we had scheduled for today with Dr. Hill Krishnan, but he's feeling a little bit under the weather today, so we'll reschedule him for next week. So we thought about what better, to talk about love than during this Valentine's season. So let me introduce you, though, to my wonderful co-hosts and wisdom presenters. I have here Seneca Perry Moore. We have also here Lynn Min. Hi, Lynn. And
Hey.
and then we have a new guest that I'm so excited to introduce, Amin Gates. Welcome, Amin.
Welcome.
So good to have you. So let me read to you to start a quote that I love by A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. And this is how it goes. Love does not conquer all things, but it does set all things right. Love taken seriously is a radical outlook, a major departure from the psychological orientation that rules the world. It is threatening, not because it is a small idea, but because it is so huge. So sit with that for a second and let's talk about love. I know that this topic is, you can find anything anywhere if you start Googling, love. There are so many seminars out there. So let's talk about it in a different way today. What about that? Let's set that intention. And for anyone who's listening, I want you to post your comments, your questions, challenge this topic. What is love? How do we talk about love? Especially during this time and this year when a lot of people are in lockdown. Some single people are going to spend Valentine on their own in their apartment. So what does this mean? And some obviously are with their families, their loved ones, and some cannot get together with all of their loved ones. And it's a very, very powerful year overall. So, but let's go back to the first question then. What is love and how do we talk about love during this time? Who wants to get started?
I'm happy to jump in.
Of course, go ahead, Amin.
As a co-host, I'm actually being drawn back to this album that Lauryn Hill put out back in 1998. Some of you may know it, some of you may not, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. But the interludes actually included this teacher in a classroom asking his students, I think they're probably like in the 8th or 9th grade, that very question. He was like, what is love? And one of the students very astutely shared that there's a difference between love and being in love. And you can love anybody, but when you're in love with someone, you accept them for all that they are, all that they do, and no matter what. And then another student chimed in and said, well, what if that person has never experienced love and they don't know what love is? So they can't even allow love in because they don't know what it is. And so when I think about that, I'm like, wow, well, what is love to me? And love to me is that grace and that compassion that you extend to yourself and to others when you feel less than worthy, when you feel insecure, or you are coming from a place of feeling less than. It's that grace and that compassion that we extend to ourselves and others.
Beautiful, Amin. Beautiful.
Yeah, I'll jump in too. I love what you just said, Amin, and it really comes to mind how much we really can't reduce the concept of love to a relationship between people or this definition or that definition. It's so intangible. It's so huge. It's almost like it just is truth. It's almost like when we're in love, we're in alignment with everything that's truth. And when we're not, and we can't receive love and we don't know what it is, we're almost like not even in alignment with what is true in this universe and a bigger picture of all of reality, kind of a spiritual sense. It's almost like it's the foundation of what gives us our spirituality as humanity.
Well said, Seneca. I love these two thoughts before I pass the time over to Lynn. And Amin said love and compassion, and how do we give that to ourselves, right? And the next part that I thought connected this whole idea very well is that when we are not in love, we're not in alignment. We're not in alignment with truth. So what do you say to that, Lynn?
You guys are throwing out words that are just so deeply personal. If they're philosophical, they're religious, they're spiritual for me. For me, I grew up with this notion that God is love, right? So love is personified. It's not just that the thing, the power, the omnipotence that holds the universe together isn't just lovely or loving, but it is love. And so when you say, what is love? My brain is just like, and it is a trigger. It is a threat, right? Threat to what we already hold in our minds. This is love. It's a box of chocolates on Valentine's Day. It's between two people. It's feelings of this and that. But whatever you can hold in your mind, it's too small. It's going to be, love is going to be a threat to that. And so it makes sense to me that Valentine's Day is such a big trigger because of all the ways in our limited minds that we hold what it should be and what it ought to be and what we're so hoping it is because of the associations that were put on it. And then when we talk about it in this big way, of course we're threatened, our mind's about to explode.
Yeah, this whole concept of being threatening concept and at the same time revolutionary, right? So let's talk about this a little bit more then. How do we make this conversation more revolutionary? Let's talk about love in a way that hasn't been talked about before. And for anyone in the audience who wants to, challenge us with your questions, please put them there, or maybe give us some of your radical thoughts there in the chat. But this takes me to the next question, or a comment that I have is, how do we talk about love so that everybody can engage in and everybody can feel empowered? And I'll share a little bit about myself. I could very well, maybe for a while, I thought I haven't been as successful in the love arena because I don't have the typical life of being married with children and being with a partner and having this perfect life that I had envisioned for myself. But although I thought this way for so many years, there was a moment that something clicked. There was a moment that I actually thought, this has given me the most beautiful space to think about love in the most radical way and give myself the space to do that, which is love for the self. That it hasn't been a failure because I haven't fit into this box of having the perfect family structure. But the one thing, if we can call love a success, is so hard because I don't like the word success when it comes to love. But let's, for the sake of this conversation, where I have felt blessed or successful is that I have engaged for a while in this journey to self-love. And that has been the most beautiful disruption of anything that I was taught in the past, and the most beautiful awakening to what love truly is for me in my life. So I wanted to just hear some thoughts on your side. Why is this such an important topic for you in your life?
Yeah, Veronica, I think that you pointed to something that's so essential in this. It's really the core of what we're talking about. And that is that you cannot build love in your life without starting with love for the self first. You can't build, whether you're married or single or you're in a partnership, You can't build a fulfilling relationship with anyone else until you first have deep love with yourself. You can't even build a fulfilling job or life or any aspect of life if you don't first have an empowered and loving and kind and really prioritized relationship with yourself first. And so it's almost like those boxes that we're taught are like what means success, like you're talking about, like, oh, I have been successful in love or unsuccessful in love. It actually has nothing to do with if we end up married like we imagined or with children like we imagined. We can have those things and still not have love is the thing. And we can play those two sometimes. And I think it's so important to first ask ourselves, okay, what is the quality of my relationship with myself? Do I put myself first? Am I loyal to myself? Do I spend time caring for myself, for my body? You know, and if I haven't done that, then maybe I haven't been successful in love, no matter what it looks like on the outside.
Very, very beautifully said, Seneca. So, I mean, what does this trigger for you? This whole conversation that, you know, self-love and self-empowerment.
Yeah, I mean, I think just going back to what I shared earlier, I feel like love is always redefining itself. It's always evolving into something else. And I think that we have been conditioned to think, you know, love is one way. And then we get to a point where it's like, well, I've gotten all these things, but I still don't feel happy. I don't feel like, you know, I feel empty inside. And that's when you kind of get this trigger that like, there's something missing. Like you don't really have that love of self, love of spirit, love of energy that is in you. And so I work very diligently and hard at, you know, cultivating that relationship between my energy and my spirit with love. So that it's honestly one and the same. It's like when you identify with love and saying that I am love and I am the generator of love. And then you realize that like once you kind of like mirror everything that's inside, which is love, on the outside, it's like, wow, I see love everywhere. Love is in the trees, love is in the plants, love is in my relationships with friends, with family, with colleagues. Like it's everywhere. It's in the dirt. It just really morphs into like a different kind of like definition of what we traditionally think love is.
Yeah, I love this idea that we mirror everything that is on the inside, on the outside, right? So we manifest this internal, powerful, infinite force that I call love in our lives, in our external realities, through our internal realities, right? So I'll pass this time over to you, Lynn, because you talk to so many clients as a psychotherapist, right? And I'm sure that a lot of the conversations you have somehow in some way relate to this idea of love. So why is it important to talk about this now, Lynn?
Wow, so many things were surfacing up for me. Well, it's important to talk about this now and maybe every other time it's talked about because this is everything. Especially in the corporate world where it feels like love is frou-frou or kind of fluffy or unprofessional. But, you know, why do we do what we do? Why do we climb the ladder and do all this work and make all the money? Isn't it so that somewhere down the line we are better loved by people, better approved, or it has to do with feelings of love? And when we sit on our death or like when we lie on our deathbed, it's not the I lived a good life because of all the accomplishments, but it's the love, right? It's the love. And I think it's even deeper than that. So how do we reframe this talk so that everyone can engage and be empowered? And how do we kind of expand this? That love is the physics. Love is like you were saying, like, it's really like it's in the trees and the dirt. And it's not just a frou-frou, like, what is he talking about? It's really real. It's the only reality. You know, and we have to reconnect with that because sometimes, you know, I'm thinking also back to the intentions talk we've had. We make our lives about these goals, especially when it comes to our careers, right? I want this many clients. I want to make this much money. And these are like the things that keep us on the hamster wheel. But at the end of the day, I guarantee it, the only intention throughout the whole thing of life is love. And the faster we reconnect and stay connected to that, we can feel a sense of meaning and purpose. Yeah.
Talk to me a little bit more about this, that it is the only reality. Because some people may be wondering, like, what are we talking about, that love is the only reality? How do we make the connection to what we do every day?
I'll try to take a stab at it. And I feel as though like reality is love and is rooted in love, and that you're either coming from a place where you're rooted in love or you're separated from love, you're disconnected from it. And that kind of like, spurs up anger and hate and all these other things. But and back to kind of like your original question around like, why do we need it now, or why are we talking about it now? Like, it's needed right now. There's so much separation, in our world today. And if we get that to this core understanding that we are all love, and it bodes well for humanity. It bodes well for compassion, for being empathetic with one another, for loving each other's differences, and knowing that like, hey, you have a different point of view, but I love you because you are spirit, you are love. It's fine. Like, we're all like the same under the sun. So I think that's where I'm coming from in terms of like, love is just, it's one idea, it's one motion. It's either you're on that stream of love or you're a little bit disconnected from it.
I am still holding those thoughts and the energy of what you just said, that we are living in this illusion that we are separate. And it is a complete illusion. We are not separate. We are more connected than what we think. The world that we see is a 1% of the reality. The world that we cannot see and cannot be measured feels the bigger reality. And the whole thing that the world needs it most right now, we need more compassion, and we are so connected, not just conceptually, but also even scientifically. But Lynn, I think you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. It's kind of like just as the cold isn't as real as there's an absence of heat, what's real is the heat and the warmth and the source of that. Like, darkness isn't really the like what's real. It's the absence of what is real, which is light. So everything on the gradation of what we're experiencing, why we're in the jobs, why we want the family, why we want our relationships to work out, at the end of the day, they're gradations of love or the lack of, right? And so when people ask me, what do you do with your clients? I know it sounds really frou-frou, like what what's the methodology, or, what's the bent that you use? It's really hard to kind of, but at the end of the day, it's radical self-love, and it's being love incarnate, right? Like fleshing that out, making that CBT wise, like understanding it, and then putting that into behavior, and then manifesting it into the life that you want, the relationship that you want. But at the end of the day, it's love, how you love yourself, and how you relate and understand that connection, and then how you're motivated and start creating with that.
Yes, I love this reminder that darkness is just the absence of light, right? And separation, hate, all these other things that we experience is just an absence of love. So Amin and also Seneca, I'll direct this question because it makes me think, like, how do we talk about love in the workplace? Like, what space does this conversation of love occupies in the workplace? Or how does it manifest?
I think that just through your being, I don't know if you have to like necessarily kind of like call it out as like, hey, I'm being loving right now. If you're coming from a place of love, people can feel that. They can sense that. They might not be able to see it, but they can sense it. If it's coming from your vibrations, if it's coming from like your energy, then you can emanate that, even through a Zoom call. Like, I'm sure I can just sit here and not say anything and still give you love.
Oh, yes. And how do you do that? Because I know that in my case, at times, I don't always remember to do this. I have been in work calls when I am about to get on a call with someone, and when I remember to do this, I sit with myself in silence and meditation, and I'm basically saying, I'm about to go on a call with these beautiful people, 30 minutes of wisdom. Please help us connect in the higher with our higher selves in the most connected way, and that I can be here of service for that person. And I tell you that when I do that, before I get on a call with someone that I manage or I lead, or with someone that I report to, or anyone that I work with, when I remind myself and I do this, I can just sense and I can see and witness the different outcome, because I set that already into motion before we physically came together.
Yeah. And I think another, sorry about that. Yeah.
No, it's okay. Do you want to go? I'll go. Sorry.
Go ahead, Seneca. Go ahead, Seneca.
Just really quickly say, I'm so glad that you brought that up, Veronica, because I think a lot of us have this perception that there's kind of like, there's my life where I experience love and maybe I'm spiritual, I have connection and I have fulfillment, and then there's my work life. And separate them. And there's a really important part of this that what I really work with a lot of my clients on, and what I worked with in my personal life when I worked in the corporate world, is actually there should be no difference between, we should be bandmates. We should be bringing our tools and our meditations and all of our capacities into our work life. So I love what you said. And when we can, especially when we all have people, we work for a company and there's all kinds of people that we work with, and there's some we're going to naturally resonate and get on with. Others that things are going to get sticky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I was going to
when
say,
we can actually center ourselves.
You're breaking up a little bit, Seneca, but go ahead, Lynn, and then I'm sure Seneca will come back in a second. Go ahead, Lynn.
I mean, writing off what Seneca was also saying, you know, a lot about wellness is loving what you do, you know, and doing what you love. And actually there absolutely is a relationship, right, between, I mean, you're at a job for most of your waking moments. If you hate it, you will not be well. And your body will. There will be scientific, measurable, quantifiable proof, right, to you not loving, or the lack of love. You know, in your anxiety level, there's going to be chemicals flowing in there, the stress chemicals, the hormones. Like, you won't be well. It's not possible to be, right? And so I think that's how it plays into the work. You know, I often come from a space where where clients will say, I don't know what it is, but, you know, like, I can't put my finger on it, but they hate their jobs. They hate what they do, and they feel they're going into this place every day, not loving what they do. And I'm not saying that everybody has to love what they do, you know, but I think at a certain level, there has to be this, like, maybe it's not, I love the Excel spreadsheet and, you know, yeah. but it is this, I love excellence. I want to show up. I love it. Yeah, I want to I believe in the service that I am maybe a small part of, but I believe in the product or the service or the something of the team that makes
purpose.
Me feel, yes. And that you can kind of love, and that I think brings an alignment, you know, that brings wellness.
Alignment. And you cannot be of your greater service to others if you're not in a place, sitting in a place of love, right? Even with what you do in the workplace. So one important question, because we have a few minutes left, and I can't believe, I feel like this conversation could go on for a while. Maybe some of you listening is like, no, I got enough with love. I got enough for now. But let's talk about, what are the barriers to love?
Ooh.
What are the barriers to love?
So I think one of the biggest barriers to love, well, there's a lot there. This is
So I think we're losing.
This is a really big topic that we could talk a lot about, but essentially it's like.
Okay, so Seneca, I think we're losing you. So let me go then to Amin. What are some of the barriers to love?
So many barriers, but I think the one thing that's probably like the biggest and hardest to get over is this, like, sense of worthiness. Are we worthy of love? And one of the ways that I get over that feeling is every morning when I wake up, the sun is up, and I didn't have to do anything for the sun to come up, and I'm grateful for it. And so I know that I'm loved by the universe. I know that I'm loved by the world because things are happening in perfection, and I have to do nothing to uphold that. So love is always around me, and so yes, I am worthy of love because I'm here in this time space reality, and I'm alive and I'm functioning.
And imagine if we wake up every day with that thought that I am loved and loved by the universe, and the universe has my back, and I'm just a manifestation of this higher force or this benevolent force, goodness. Anything we do, anyone we interact with, even in the midst of conflict, there's going to be a benevolent outcome that is for the higher good of everyone involved. So thank you, Amin, for sharing that. And Lynn, what are some of the barriers to love? What would you say? You talk to so many clients. You're such a successful psychotherapist. I have to say, I have seen how your clients give amazing raving reviews about you. Okay, so tell me, what have you learned from speaking to so many people?
Pero first I need to say, oh, shucks. Veronica makes you feel so loved. You're really great. And it's a skill and it's a gift that you give to the world. I think the barrier to love is the belief, right? And I think, you said it perfectly. It might be that lack of knowing the self-worth, I'm worth love. But it's all of the self-loathing beliefs. I am not enough. I need to be perfect, right? When I always say, the universe gives you all the good stuff, but you can only receive and compute that which aligns with your inmost beliefs, right? So if
repeat that again, Lynn, because that was powerful. The universe can give you.
The universe gives us all of these good stuff, right? Gives us stuff, right? But we can only draw out the stuff the goodness that aligns with our inmost beliefs, right? And if it doesn't match, that's where the threat is. That's where the disruption is. And, we have all these sorts of psychological and emotional reactions to it. We defend, we minimize, we go, that can't be true. We scoff it off, or we pretend like we believe it, but we really don't. That's where vulnerability issues and intimacy issues come in. Right. And we have all these other reactions to it, but it really ends up being, what are your beliefs about love and you? Right.
Yes. You said something that I feel like it's an aha moment. The universe always wants to give you so much because there is a loving infinite force that is constantly wants to give you the abundance of love, the abundance of wisdom, light, and goodness. But if our beliefs are not aligned to that, and I'm saying to myself, I'm not enough, and I don't have the doors open to receive that, and there is a break in the communication and a lack of alignment.
Right.
Really, really, really powerful. So Seneca is back. I'm so happy to have you back, Seneca. Yeah. So we have a couple of minutes, but I'm so glad I have you back, Seneca. And so let's finish with this thought. What does this trigger for you? It is never too late to fall in love with the life that you have been given. And this is, by the way, a quote by Lisa Nichols. I don't want her to call me and say, hey, that was me, Veronica, that's not yours. Although I wouldn't mind Lisa Nichols calling us, but okay.
That's true.
So it is never too late to fall in love with the life that you have been given.
I love that so much. It's just absolutely brings us back to the fact that there's love available to us in any moment. Every single moment. It's never gone. It's never too late. The time is never past. You're never too old. Because just like everything we've been saying today, love is essentially everything. Love is truth. So we can always choose love. We can always stop ourselves and say, you know what? I haven't been choosing love until this moment, and now I choose love. And connect and open ourselves to it.
Amin, I'm pronouncing it like the Spanish accent. Amen.
It sounds iconic, right? I love it.
Spanish mother.
It's never too late to shift your perspective. As soon as you shift your perspective, your entire reality changes. And every single second, every single minute that we have in this world that we're in, like, we can change our perspective, and we are recreating ourselves every single morning that we wake up. Sometimes I forget what I did the previous day because, like, I feel like I have a brand new life every morning. Just shifting your perspective can really just kind of like help you live in the moment and change your outlook all the time.
And I want to pass the time to Lynn, but Lynn, I want to pass the time to you and finish with you by saying that one of the greatest awakenings for me has been able to receive from my higher self, to hear from my higher self say, I am enough. I am enough. I am enough, with all my shadows, with all my light, with all my faults, failures, successes. I am enough, and I'm loved, and I'm simply I am. Pass it to you.
I love that. What that Lisa Nichols quote reminds me is to do the work, to choose love, to receive love, right? That love is a choice and it's an outlook. Choose to create love and start to do the work of falling in love with yourself every moment. You yourself is an evolution. I am not the same person I was 10 years ago, right? And so it's work today for me to love myself today and to really like sink into the belief that there's nothing I can do to make me more lovable. And there's nothing I don't have to do, right, to make me more lovable. There's nothing I have to change. To repeat what you were saying, Vero, it's I'm enough, I'm okay, and I am loved exactly where I am in this moment. Yeah.
And that's a beautiful way to end. Happy Valentine's, everyone. Happy Love Day. And please, let's take time to celebrate, not just with everybody else, but let's take time to celebrate you. You, your love, who you are, because you are loved. And you are loved exactly as you are. Thank you to my beautiful co-hosts. You are amazing, and you have taught me what love is. And you have provided me a beautiful friendship that is one of the greatest gifts in my life. So thank you, and have a blessed week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.